welcome to the First Focal Plane podcast with Sean and Rooster.
What's up, my dudes? Welcome to the First Focal Plane podcast, episode 37, where just like a certain politician's socks, we can never cease to disappoint.
Socks?
Speaking of socks, we are proudly brought to you by EM Precision Rifles in Leduc, Alberta, Canada. Canada's premier precision builder of lightweight hunting rifles, starter packages, and kick-it-to-mile competitors. EM Precision Rifles has the right stuff to get you running with surgical precision. Find them on Facebook, Instagram, and their website at emprifles.ca. Nailed it.
Good work. Next
Pat
up,
yourself on the back.
yeah. Next up, Bolt Action Coffee, who bring you exclusive award-winning specialty coffees to the precision shooting community, boasting specialty coffee of 85.5 or higher. That's coffee cupping scores, 85.5 or higher. Bolt Action Coffee roasts will get your morning started right and keep you on target all day long. Choose between Scopes Up, Overwatch, and Suppressed. Find them on Facebook, Instagram, and their website at boltactioncoffee.com. And use First Focal Plane at checkout for 10% off your order. First Focal Plane, all one word, all caps. Help us out. Help
us help you.
I shouldn't be talking. I've been on the road since 5. You got to cut me some slack here.
Well, I do very much like that. Just because Sean didn't screw his up this week, he just trounced all over you.
He did. Very much.
Wait till next week.
We were just talking about being challenged and getting our ass handed to us. Yeah.
And next week on next week's episode, we find out that revenge really is a dish best served cold.
Indubitably.
In the meantime, we are also brought to you by Callsign 66.
Hey.
Callsign 66 is a veterans-based organization founded to facilitate multi-generational passage of information, ballistic applications, R&D, and shooter development. Within Callsign 66, the passage of information is omnidirectional. Our organizational philosophy is such that we all have something to offer and that there is always room for improvement. We as a community are our own best asset for learning. Welcome to the Brotherhood. Find them on Facebook, Instagram, and on their website at callsign66.ca.
You betcha.
Little hiccup, but not bad. Speaking of Callsign 66.
Yeah. We are joined by the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Cary.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
We should add that to his name tag in the corner, Mr. Cary.
Mister.
I think I can change his name.
I think you should.
I can.
And Cary's out.
Yes.
Yeah. I think you're the wife calling. I gotta.
Right.
Look at the time. I got a thing. I got to rearrange my sock drawer.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. What are you
Speaking
guys
of
drinking tonight?
Yeah.
A man, myth, legend.
Well, I'm trying to kill this bottle of Alberta Premium. It's 40.
Is it working?
It's making a dent, that's for sure.
No, dents are good. What are you drinking, Kurt?
I'm drinking Gibson's Finest Bold 8-year-old.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Tasty.
It's kind of nice stuff, yeah. You betcha.
This will come as not much of a surprise to anybody who's been paying attention over the last several months, but I'm still trying to kill the copious amounts of invisible cans of Alexander Keith's that I have.
How come you have copious amounts?
Well, because I bought them for when I was running events, and then COVID happened, and I haven't run events in a year.
I see.
And I've got
Drinking stale beer.
Yeah,
right.
Actually, yes, like year-old beer. I'm almost through the Keiths. So pretty quick, I'll have to start working on the 3 cases of 016 that I have.
Holy smokers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is there a brewery in Halifax? Is that the one
I think Keiths is, isn't it? Yeah, well, I don't know if it's
so.
Halifax, but it's Nova Scotia, isn't it?
Yeah.
No.
Yep, Nova Scotia.
Let me see if
Well, they might actually. I don't know. That's a very good question. We'll have to look that up.
It's hard to read the can because it's invisible. No, Halifax, Nova Scotia.
There
Trademark Keith's Brewery, Halifax, Nova
Yep.
Scotia, Canada.
They used to sponsor a senior A ball team that I played against all the time out there.
Did you beat them?
No, they were fucking good.
It's because they were all loose because they were drunk the whole time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those Easterners, man.
They know how to play ball or they know how to drink?
They know how to drink, man. And they can smash a ball, too. Yup.
Nice.
What are you drinking there, man, myth, legend?
Well, everybody that knows me will know what I'm drinking, but I got a little Jack Daniels. So
Ooh, there you go.
kind of a one-trick pony when it comes to that stuff. So
The pride of Tennessee.
You know,
served me well over the years. So
It's seen me in a few gutters over the years. Oh, Mr. Rouse, how are you tonight? All right, we're going to put you on
Yes.
your face.
yes, we meet again.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
I got a question here before we move on. So Doug has said, "Good morning, boys. You too, Kris." Does that mean that I'm a man, or is he calling me a girl, or something else?
I'm not sure
altogether?
what you're reading into it. I'm not sure what you're reading either.
it says
to me,
evening.
it says
Clearly
evening.
says evening. Yeah.
What did I say?
Morning.
Good morning.
Well, we're
that
on
beans
fire
may
tonight.
not even be
This is
stale.
what happens
It's
when you're
rotten.
drinking stale beer.
Right.
It's turned into pill. I mean, did I say that out loud, Miles? Miles, if you're listening, I'm fully judging your drinking habits. By the way.
I think the important part here is that I don't know if Doug is insulting you guys or if Doug is insulting me.
Does it really matter?
Yeah.
If it matters to me if he's insulting me.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it doesn't matter to the rest of the panel.
I have a very fragile ego, guys.
Oh, do you?
And
Okay.
Kris lost. What did I lose?
The game, son.
There was a game?
Everything's a competition, as
That's
we can
it.
attest to. So,
Yes, sir.
Well,
All right.
Speaking of,
Which
if-
direction do we take this shit?
yeah, I was just
I
going
don't
to say, here's a transition
Cary's-
for you.
he's just sitting there like, when the fuck are you
Yeah.
guys going to talk to
Right.
me?
Well,
You guys didn't tell me about this.
I keep myself busy. So.
That's why the camera's here up.
yeah, exactly right. Well, Cary, why don't you introduce yourself? Who are you?
Well, I'm the man, the myth, the legend. I'm a retired military guy. Been shooting most of my life. Been involved in hunting. Most of the typical outdoor stuff I'm sure you guys are into. And I did my 15 years in the Army and then hung her up last year. And then last few years I've been involved with 6.6 and Miles, you guys know, and Cappy and a couple of the other fellas. And try to not end up in a ditch from the Jack Daniels.
Well,
You seem to be succeeding quite well so far.
So far.
no kidding.
It's early.
We'll see where the night
The
takes.
night is young, fellas. Hey? So, see, you spent 15 years in the Army. Can you elaborate on that? Were you a grunt? Were you an artillery guy? Were you a... What were you?
Yeah, so I was an infantry guy. I was with the PVCLI. Same regiment as Miles there, so it's kind of how we know each other there. And then, I got a couple injuries, so I ended up leaving. But I got really lucky in my career. It was a really good timing, and got to work with some really good people, and it was kind of it was good timing to do a lot of things that we haven't done in a while. So kept me busy for the most part. The first 10 years is pretty much a big blur there. So
I can
in a good way, you're just so busy, right? So it was looking back on it, it was definitely a privilege. So
That's good.
And you're dabbling with Callsign, or are you doing that full time with them, or what's the situation there?
yeah, so Miles approached me a couple of years ago, and Nate there, and then I found, like, when I was in the military, so my background, I did some courses to do some instructing, and I really like the instructing side of. I like what I did in the military, and then I really liked the instructing side once I got into it, and that was kind of a continuation, getting involved with 6-6 and really how we can help the community as a whole overall. So even though my war might be over, we can help the guys that are still in, and we can help the shooting community and as a whole, and hopefully be a good influence on the community. So
Nice.
When you come to Saskatchewan?
What's that?
I said, when are you coming to Saskatchewan with Miles?
Hopefully next time he's out. I can't remember what came up last year. I was going to come out when they came out there, but things add up. So
Life happens.
No idea what you're talking about whatsoever.
Yeah.
Add up, yeah.
You don't get silver in that beard without having a few things add up. That's for sure.
That's for damn sure. Yeah, like
we won't ask
child support.
So we won't ask what added up.
The years, man. The freaking years.
Yeah. Okay. So, and you compete pretty heavy in PRS too, right?
Yeah, I got. I started going down like when we started going with 6-6 and taking the guys down, and it's tough. It's tough walking away from your career, and you've done it for so long, and it's good. It's a good kind of continuation, but it also really helps you, like the competition as an individual. It really pushes you out of your. It makes you better, right? So
out of your comfort zone, right? And
my experience. So, but yeah, I really like it's a cool community, especially down. It was kind of PRS when I first started, and now they got the NRL, and I've shot both of them, but I've never had a bad. You know what I mean? It's always a good time. You're always learning something, and I would highly recommend it to anybody. So I really like it. I like the competition side of it too, the pressure and just seeing what you're capable
of, right?
Yeah.
So what's the big difference between PRS and NRL?
There's a few, like they're two kind of different. They kind of started out as the precision rifle series, and then the NRL started. I want to say 4 years ago, a couple years ago. Don't quote me on that, but they're very similar. The PRS tends to be a little more kind of like field and open matches, and NRL seems to be a little more prop. Shooting off obstacles, things like that. But they're both. I really like shooting both of them. As long as I'm shooting, I'm pretty much happy. I don't really care where it is. So. And
they're all the same distance, like roughly, or what's the situation there?
It'll vary. Yeah, a lot of it depends on the match, and then you'll kind of get different. Each match director will have a different way they want to do things.
Yeah.
So, say like Blue Ridge, where we shoot down in Washington, they'll have a lot of. It's really cool, kind of rolling hills coming out of the mountains. So it's kind of farming community. So you tend to have some longer, anywhere from. You get a couple that are close, but they're probably 600 to 1,400 meters. So.
Okay.
Depending on what the stage is, and then I shot one. Me and Nate shot one ELR match down in Wyoming, which was pretty fun at the Q Creek Ranch down there. So
yeah. Oh, right on. You guys are laughing at Doug, aren't you?
Yeah, we're laughing at Doug. Can you see the comments, Cary?
No,
in the right hand side of your screen, there's public comments or private comments. You want to be in the public comments, then you'll know why me and Kurt are laughing like idiots while you're talking.
Yeah.
Doug says, considering the prevalence of facial hair in these podcasts, you might have to change the name to the First Follicle Plane podcast.
9.
Oh, there's Ross.
9.
Yeah, Mr. Spagrud, howdy.
Yeah, there's been a couple people saying hi to you. Yeah.
Todd's a beauty. There he came and took. Was it 2 years ago? He took her course. So yeah. It's a beauty of a human being. So
absolutely,
that's kind of what I like about the sport and everything. Is you don't really. It's pretty rare you don't meet someone that isn't a beauty. So
yeah, exactly. that's why I've been drawn to it too in the community, right? I mean guys like Kurt and Chris and you and Miles and Cappy and just everybody's been a good person. That's what I enjoy out of it.
Yeah,
And everyone's willing to help and give you advice, but in a way that's not condescending and not bitchy and like, hey, I'm better than you and this is why kind of thing. And
that's a bit of a departure, isn't it, from what you're used to with pistol stuff? From what you've told us,
to an extent, right? Like there's obviously beauties in everywhere you go, but when you start going to like larger matches and stuff, people are like, "Oh, my foot was on the line." And, it's just guys
my
are way
whole
too
sense of self relies on me winning.
Yeah, exactly, and it's on. Well, you're stupid for shooting this brand, and you're stupid for it's like, who gives a fuck? Awesome. Like, just let's go out, let's shoot, let's go drink some beer after, and let's have a good time. Like,
too much ego, right?
That's right. It's all about ego and gaming, right? And that's why like PRS is there's gamers in PRS obviously too, but not to the same extent where you're running the whole course of fire, air gunning it and like going around barricades and like going I don't know, it's just that stuff I don't know,
it seems like
how do they do that, Sean?
Right, I was
one more demonstration.
They make those sounds too, but they're more like yeah, and as they're going around and probably rubbing their nipples as they're going around as well. It's like I'm gonna go so fast here with my STI. Oh my god,
this reminds me so much. I had a buddy one time a long time ago that every time he'd get into a fight outside the bar, he'd do the boxes when they're practicing.
Yeah. What? Well, no, you're taught when you're boxing or even in Taekwondo to
this guy
exhale.
Had no training. Yeah.
No,
I'm very familiar. Yeah,
yeah, and so he's doing that in a street fight.
Yeah, it was gold.
Which bar were you at that they were doing that?
The Pat in Saskatoon.
So what he was just shadow boxing, trying to intimidate the other guy in the bar. Or?
Actually, during a fight.
Oh, he was doing it during a fight.
It was great, yeah.
That's literally what I said.
He got his ass kicked, didn't he?
Did he win?
Yeah.
Well, he was about 50-50.
It's not bad.
Just caught the guy.
Heart, that guy.
Just caught the guy off guard. Like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Lands a quick couple jabs. Oh shit.
Hey, man, whatever works.
That's right.
It was either that or throw sand in his face.
I suppose it was like
pocket sand.
But it was all frozen because you're in Saskatoon.
Yeah, well, sandy snow.
Yeah, that's it. Use what you got.
Or depending on the bar, you could have a pocket full of cocaine and get that in the face. So, so there's that.
The bars I attended, it was more likely to have a pocket full of sand.
So let's bring this back to gaming competition here. Tell me if you guys think this is a true statement. Like that there may be less gamers in long range precision shooting because there are more variables that you can't control, just variables that you can only account for rather than control. Wind, etc. No,
I don't know.
Don't think so. There's just as many games in long range.
I would say, like, there's definitely that stuff that you can't game it, right? It's either you can do it or you can't. But you'll see with the stages. I'm sure you see it in like 3-gun where guys are trying to do certain stuff. If they don't clarify on an obstacle or whatever, they're looking for that edge, which is fair, right? Like I get both sides of that argument, but they're looking to try and they want to win, right? So.
That's right. And if you're not cheating, you're not trying hard enough in those types of games, right? So if the match or the stage description leaves it very open to interpretation, you could potentially game it. Like I knew a stage, or there was a stage at Provincials or Saskatchewan Provincials 2 years ago where you had to shoot underneath the barricade. So you had to go crouch down or go sideways underneath the barricade. And one guy literally did the splits. And it shot, and that's how it ended the stage, right? So they didn't say how, you just got to go underneath. So most guys would go prone, right? Or whatever, right? And
was he able to get back up from the splits?
You'd be surprised. He is quite, he was an older gentleman.
Is his name Jean-Claude?
No, but it is kind of French/Dutch, I would assume. So, anyway, regardless,
Well, good for him.
yeah.
Do you
like,
find that most of those guys, though, like the guys that are really good, they don't tend to spend a lot of time doing that in 3-gun or that stuff?
you know, I don't know. It's
Or no?
they're more focused on the fundamentals. I would say, like getting, like for example, 3-gun. You know, getting those quad loads down. You know, like it's second nature, right? And you know, reloading your pistol, never, you know, keeping that round count sharp, and so you don't run dry, and because that could add an extra quarter or half of a second, or whatever the case is, you know, and it's just doing it such you don't get, you don't think about it, right? So anyway.
Yeah, but they spend time focusing on the things that matter versus, you know, not that everybody isn't trying to get advantage, but they're focusing on that's what's gonna make them win, right? So
Exactly. And here,
You got to love every story that starts with, speaking of fights, I got beaten up at a bar.
Yeah. Reminds me when I was in New Zealand, I got hooked up with a bunch of Welsh guys. Like, you want to talk about animals? Welsh people. Welsh rugby team, no less. Like,
Yikes.
unbelievable. At first, of course, they thought I was American, but once they found out I was from the Commonwealth, part of the Commonwealth, right? Then
you're okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Then it was warm fucking beer all night.
Well, first I'm going to read this for the audio listeners so they know what we're talking about. Ross is regaling us with a story of when he was beaten up in a bar in Warminster, UK during the SSI trials by some British soldiers who thought I was an American. After we sorted the facts, I drank for free. So that's what's spurned this conversation. Yeah, it's fun. When were you in Wales?
no, Ross was.
No, Kurt.
Oh, no, sorry. I was in New Zealand.
You were in
There's
New
a
Zealand.
Welsh rugby team over there.
Is this in the 90s?
Tour. Yes.
You know, it's
Welcome
funny.
to the first Focal Plane Rugby show.
Yeah, well, I'm about to change it again. I remember mid 90s, I was in Australia and I was competing in a tournament like for Team Canada, but we also traveled with Team America, Team US, US team, whatever the fuck they call themselves. And it was the same thing in Australia. They fucking hated the Americans and they loved the Canadians. It only took 2 days for the Americans to start buying Canadian flag patches off of us so they could put them on their backpacks.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it's still that way today. We're talking about 25 years ago, but it certainly was like that in the mid 90s. I imagine a similar experience with Ross, considering he says after they found out that he was Canadian, he drank for free.
All right, let's get this fucking thing back on track.
Oh, we
here.
getting serious now?
Cary, what are you shooting? Let's start with that.
There we go.
Well, it's a pretty fancy cartridge. I shoot a 300 Blackout Magnum, so it's I shoot a 308. So
300 Blackout Magnum, long range.
That's the first time I've heard that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I can't take credit for that. One of the Kevin Ditto down in the States came up with that, but we used to shoot 308 together down there. So
Yeah,
but yeah, I shoot 308 for a few reasons. Like I shoot it because I shot it in the military, so I'm familiar with it. But another reason is, you know, if we're shooting with certain organizations, like most LE and military guys are shooting 308. So if we're working with them or, you know, whatever, we're shooting on the same page. It's not like we're demoing stuff with, you know, some crazy 6mm or whatever. Like we're using the same tools essentially. And then now it's getting better for the other cartridges, but it's usually easy to find components and you know, they're a little cheaper and you can shoot lots of them. And then I like it because you got to get really good. Like you got to know how to call your wind. So it really helps with that. So it helps with your overall fundamentals. So.
I've run into a bit of a conundrum here where there's some of us competing at the King of 2 Miles this coming fall, I guess.
Yep.
And
Right?
yeah, no, 33XC, but practice. I want to do lots of practice, and I figured using the 308 would get you practice because of that wind factor. right? You got to be damn good to get out to a mile with a 308, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Like it won't replicate anywhere close to the 33XE at 3150 or 3200 with the 300 grain bullet. But just that wind effect and spotting practice is what I'm after.
Yeah, I would. It's really good just for. It's cheaper to shoot, right? So you can shoot more.
Yeah,
shoot more, you're going to get better, right? And then, your wind, right? Like, I think it's half. I can't remember. Me and Cappy were just talking about the 6.5 versus 308. Like in the wind, right? And it's just a massive. I can't remember the exact numbers, but the difference is the first time I shot one, I was blown away for the 6.5, and but it just helps you. It's just harder to shoot, right? So it's going to make you better as a shooter. So
yeah, for sure.
So what? Okay, we got to unpack that a little bit. So you guys, you and Cappy were talking about 6.5 versus 308.
Yep.
Why? What brought that about?
6.5 it's kind of the new. I remember when it first came out, and I was like, you know what I mean, like something. I'm not like a trend guy, you know what I mean.
It's the new hotness, right?
Yeah, Andy heard. I like it.
So I was curious to see, because lots of cartridges come out, right? And they only last for so long, and then they're not as popular, right? But how popular it's become and how effective it is, right? So some, like a lot of agencies and militaries, are starting to make the shift from 6.5, which makes a lot of sense, right? Because you can take the same shooter shooting a 308 and a 6.5, and he's going to be more effective with a 6.5. So when it comes to training guys for whatever, it's easier, but you also get away from mastering with that 308.
So why is it easier?
Well, you're the bullet, like a better ballistic coefficient, so I think it's like half the wind of a 308, depending on what you're shooting, 175 or whatever. So your wind calls are less, so it makes you more effective to so many ranges. There's a lot to it, but it's basically a more efficient cartridge.
So why? Okay, so because we know Miles and Cappy both use 6.5 Creeds, and you're the odd man out with the 308. How does that work?
Like I said, I'm too cheap, but maybe one day I'll make the jump. But I like shooting it just because it's difficult to shoot. It just really helps you fine tune it. I actually shot. I was out with Nate, and we shot the first 6.5 PGW that they ever made.
Oh,
and I was blowing away at that thing from like 100 to 1400. It was like cheating at the casino. So
yep,
it's an impressive round. So, but it's becoming more popular, right? Which is good. So
I had a rude awakening in 2019. The only 308 I ever shot really was a hunting rifle. And I kind of started my long range. Well, I started my long range game with a 284, but progressed into different stuff. Long range. Yeah, for sure. Started out with a 260 Ackley. 2019, I burnt out my 260 Ackley during a Callsign 6.6 course at my range here. And I was like, well, okay, I got this old Res Dog 308 sitting here. I guess I'd better tune it up and go. Well, I'm telling you, man, I've said this before. I almost had to learn to shoot again. It was a totally different game. We had targets out to 1,400 meters, 1,400 and some, and actually made hits out there, but it was a struggle to get there after being spoiled with a 260 and a 260 Ackley. It's a totally different game. Those 6.5 bullets, they're nice and sleek, and they're traveling at anywhere from 27 to 28. 2860, I think, is what I was shooting with my 260 Ackley. But then you go to a 175 and a 308 at 2650. Man, that is a different game.
Yeah, I heard someone say, I can't remember who said it, but it's basically got like the ballistic coefficient of like a moving truck. You know what I mean? Like, so
Tap over.
it is, but that's what's going to make you better. You know, you might not necessarily want to compete with the 308, like I do, just for, I'm not changing anything. I know it. You know what I mean? I understand it. So, and with a lot of 308, right? There's a lot of data out there on the 308, so which the 6.5 is catching up, right? Because it's so popular. But I recommend 308s to people, especially like beginners. And then, you know, as you can see, especially with ammo right now, it's pretty much hard to find anything, but components are easier to find. Not just 6.5, but everything. You know, all the ammo out there, right? So
do you shoot factory ammo or do you hand load carry?
I've actually made the switch. So I used to. I've reloaded since I was a kid. I got lucky. I had someone kind of teach me real early, so that's been a process learning that, and I really like learning about it. But it comes down to what's your time worth, right? Like I tend to hand load for most of my hunting stuff now, but competition, especially the last couple of years, I've just been so busy that I don't have time to. You know, when you got to reload 300 rounds for a match,
you
right?
just
like,
you don't make time. That's all.
Yeah. But
I'm a fucking hand loading snob, I guess.
Yeah, but that's the thing is I love, like, for me, I find it, I enjoy the process, and you know what I mean. Like I like doing it, especially when you can
retire yet, Kurt.
What's that?
I said, besides, not all of us are old enough to retire yet.
Well, I'm old enough to retire, but there's no way I can in the next 30 years.
So I could cut you off, Cary.
Yeah, so the last bit, a big part of it too is the quality of loaded ammo now is way different than even a couple years ago.
Amen.
Like it's impressive, the leaps, and I think a lot of that has come from the long range, you know, PRS, NRL, that stuff taken off. You know, there's more interest in it, right? It's growing. So there's more demand, where I don't think, you know, other than F class and some of that stuff, right, there wasn't really a demand for it. So it's the companies are definitely stepping it up. And, you know, you get factory ammo with an ES of 10 or 15 or whatever, and you're going to sit there for however long and reload 300 rounds, which I did it for the PRS finale. I thought it was supposed to be, I think it was January, and the dates got mixed up, and I found out a week before I had to load 400 rounds with 308 for the finale.
That's awesome.
And then I couldn't ship it, so I had to do it. I literally just shut everything off in a day and a half. I just loaded everything and
oh my God,
and got her done. So which is, you know, if you got the time, it's great, but it just depends how much time you got in.
So what ammo are you shooting, if you don't mind my asking?
We shoot. I shoot Lapua. Like, we shoot a lot of it, or we used to shoot it with the military, anyways. So, 175 Lapua, like the lock base, and then I've actually, it was my first PRS match. I shot the Hornady ELDX, the Precision Hunter. Yeah, and I was super impressed with that. And like, that's what when you put the and it's I don't think they had ELDM at the time, so that's all they had for, I think it was a 178, and just great.
That's exactly what I hunt with.
Yeah, they're great bullets. I've, you know, a lot of my hunt rifles, I've switched to I always shot a lot of Sierras, and I've switched to ELDXs for most of my odd stuff. So, but like consistent, and like that Lapua, I think I had an ES of like 6 or something like that. So it doesn't get much better than any of that, right? So
it's pretty hard to switch away from Sierra bullets, but there's no question there's sleeker bullets out there.
And there's nothing ELDX.
Yeah,
till you feel
like
the
I grew up
shooting
flat Sierras, right? But it's
what was that, Cary? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I keep cutting Cary off. I'll just shut up the rest of the show.
It's good entertainment, man.
I shot a lot of Sierra. Like, I shot a 243 hunting growing up, and
sure,
100 grain Spitzer bowtail, and there's nothing wrong with nothing wrong with it. But things progress, right? But that's the good thing, is the competition, right? It keeps things keep improving, right? The technology as
The evolution is, it's crazy.
It's impressive. So
for sure.
Are you shooting Lapua factory too? You said, or to Lapua like components? Oh wow.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a bit of a question that's kind of related to you choosing to shoot 308 when, you know, at the same time you're saying 6.5 Creedmoor has a better ballistic coefficient, you know. So I want to ask you about that. There's kind of like two schools of thought in competition, I think. The guys who just want to win and the guys who want to compete to see where they're at, what they're able to do, to test themselves.
Well, I want to interject here.
Interject.
I'm
going to completely disagree with whatever you're saying, but go ahead.
Cary's, I think he's on the same train of thought as I am on many things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that guy at the racetrack that loves to shove it up the asses of guys with fancy cars. He races a shit old car.
Okay. So there's a third category. There's the guys who handicap themselves on purpose. So
it's a hybrid. It's a hybrid.
The hybrid.
Okay. Well, that kind of shoots my follow-up question, my actual question out of the water, which was, if you thought that you could do better, place better with a 6.5 Creedmoor, would you shoot a 6.5 Creedmoor? Or do you where are you at on that philosophy of competition?
Yeah, so I'm actually kind of in that boat right now, is because I shot. So they have the tactical class, which is 308 and 223. So you're all ranked together, and then they have the open class, which is basically whatever goes. And then I think there's 3,100, 3,200 feet per second velocity limit. And then I think they added a couple of years ago, they have a production class, which is good, especially for new shooters. But I'm kind of at that. Like, I really like the 308 and everything, but at the end of the day, if you want to really compete and get up there, you know, I'm going to have to make the jump to something. So it's kind of
You think you will?
I was actually thinking about it this year. Yeah, I think I will eventually. I was thinking about doing it this year, and then COVID's pretty much just ruined all that right now. So but I go back and forth just because I love, and part of it is I like beating guys with 308s. So
Well, yeah, there's nothing better than, you know, shooting a classic and then, you know, finishing better, you know, than the guy next to you too, right?
Absolutely.
So,
like that.
And a big part of it is just the competition side, regardless of whatever it is. Because I remember when Nate asked me to go, and you know how you tell yourself all this, like, well, you know, I gotta practice, and this isn't ready, and that, and I was having all those internal conversations with myself, and I had to just say, fuck it, like, we're gonna do it.
Just show up.
Practice. Yeah, so I actually got my rifle from PGW in the mail. My scope showed up the day before. I picked up the ammo on the way, put it together on the range. First time I used a Kestrel, then shot the PRS match. So, like, you got to talk yourself into doing it instead of talking yourself out of doing it.
Well, half the battle's showing up, right?
Yeah. So there's a question a little while back. What scope do you run?
Yeah.
So I got a Schmidt and Bender, and I have an ultra short. It's the 5-20.
Yeah.
PM2. Yep.
Yeah, so great. I got the Horus reticle in it. I'm a big fan of. I shot the PM or P4 Fine in the military and the P4 originally, but I'm a big fan of the grid, especially the mill-based reticles myself. Yeah, it's just a personal preference. Not everybody likes them, but they work well for me. But I'm a fan of the kind of smaller. Like, I love the 5-5 Schmitts, but they're pretty big, right? And you see a lot of the other scopes, like they take up a lot of room, right? So if you're, you know, say for PRS, if you're shooting through barricades or doing whatever, I find it a little more maneuverable. But it's what works for you. Like, a lot of the top guys, you know, they shoot 7-35s or 5-25s, and it's really, you got to find what works for you. So
You're just at your heart a minimalist.
Yeah,
clearly.
So less shit.
Yes. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Well, then that's what I opted to go for was the 5 to 25 for my PRS rig. And what's the March one I'm getting curd? 5 to 43 or something?
Yeah.
That's unreal.
Oh, the 5 to 45.
There, yeah, I don't know.
You talk about the Schmidt?
No,
No.
it's a March scope.
It's
March
March.
Scopes
I think
Canada.
top end is 42 or some darn thing.
It's something ridiculous. It's unreal. I'm
Very
not.
nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
We used the 5 to 45, I think it is, the new Schmitz that came out a couple years ago, and it's, that's like spotting scope. And when I first heard about it, I was like, man, that's going to be too much. But I was actually, I think Nate used it for the finale, and I was impressed. It wasn't too much. So
Well, the same thing applies as always. You don't have to use all of it. It's there and available if you need it. Rarely do you use all of it. Like I don't know how many goddamn times you shoot out to 1,000 yards and you're on 13 power because of the Mirage or whatever, right? But
what
you
power do you guys usually shoot at? Say you're shooting whatever you consider long range. What do you usually use?
It depends.
yeah,
I'm
quite
using
often
4 power because long range for me is 25 meters.
quite often, like my best scopes are the Bushnell's, the ERS, and it's a top end 21. I'm often at 16 to 18 when I'm poking way out there, depending on the day, depending on the light, depending on the Mirage. But I find it quite comfortable. I've got a 12-inch and a couple of 24s out at 1,050 yards, and a 21-inch plate at 1,500, and oftentimes I find like I don't look to find a magnification. I just guess dial a magnification to what I feel I need, and quite often I'm at 18 power, 16 to 18, something like that. Yeah. Scott Churchill, 12 power for the win.
Yeah, if it like Kurt said, it's all conditions dependent. Yeah. But if I'm going out to like 1,000 at Kurt's, I'm usually around that 14 to 16 mark, depending. Just because like if you zoom in too far, I find I can't see my impact. It's a little longer for me to get back on target. I mean, if I'm shooting my 6.5 Creedmoor, it's fine because there's zero recoil to that gun. But if it's like the Res Dog Kurt, that's on like 14, so that I can kind of get back on target relatively quickly, right?
Well, and depends on your game too. Like static shooting, like most of what we've done at our range when you attended, Sean.
Yeah.
You can crank things up, but when you're under the clock, that for me, that magnification tends to go way down because you need your field of view. You need to search for a target.
You need to see that splash. You need to see, you
have to learn. That's one of the big things, especially at new shooters. You'll see them, they got a super nice Schmidt or whatever, and they'll have her cranked all the way in to 25 when they're trying to find the target, but they're looking over at the other range. Or it's pretty much everybody does it until you start to figure out. And like for myself, I shoot around 8 power. That's my go-to, which I always index my scope to. That's what works for me, but it's also going to depend on the individual, right? Like I have, I'm far-sighted, so it works for me. But you're, like you said, even with my 308, not so much trace, but I'll be able to observe my impact, right? And if you don't learn from that shot, if you don't have someone spotting for you, you're just wasting it, right? So take that extra second and observe, and then make that correction, right? So,
and that's a key point too, right? Like you observe, but you second guess yourself, so you throw another one down range. That's just a waste. Once that bullet leaves your gun, it's it's the definition of insanity, like Maury Gratrick says. So,
but how many times have you seen a guy where he'll shoot one downrange and I don't see anything, and it shouldn't have been a miss. So I'm going to do it again. Well, that doesn't make any sense at all. So I'm going to do it again. This isn't adding up. I'm not going to change anything.
Yeah.
Well, if he's competing with me, that's great. But,
right.
Yeah, but if you're hunting with them, that's a deer that's gone, right, or whatever.
Absolutely.
Kris, what do they teach in Maple Seed in regards to that?
Sorry, in regards to what?
Welcome to the conversation, Kris.
I fucking check out for 2 minutes.
That's okay. In Maple Seed, how do they teach magnification and how to get target acquisition?
In Maple Seed they don't, because not right now anyways, because I mean eventually the idea is to get to known distance where you're not simulating targets at distance, you're actually shooting at distance. But for right now you're only shooting at 25 meters. So they kind of tell people go with what you're comfortable with, what you're able, so that you're able to see your target, because a lot of people dial in at 25 meters. It's crazy. You'll see some people, they'll put it 9, 12 plus power at 25 meters. And then they end up shooting the target of the guy next to them. They don't even have an idea why. So they make recommendations. They say, 4 power, maybe 6 if you want for the prone stages. But I suspect that there'll be a lot more talking about scope power when they get to the known distance courses, which hopefully they'll get to eventually.
But now we're talking about Callsign. So what's one of the tips or tricks of the trade in regards to target acquisition in a Callsign course, Cary?
Yeah, for myself, there's a few ways. I really like with my Schmidt because I got the low profile turrets on it, so I'll automatically find my target. I'll see what I'm looking at, and then I'll line my rifle up looking right over top of it. And then when you have a lower magnification, it's a lot easier to identify and get onto that target versus if you're zoomed all the way in. So again, it comes with experience. Like you said, most new shooters are zoomed right in, shooting a target beside it. You see it very often, but it's just being aware of yourself and what's downrange. So, do you guys, when you guys are shooting, do you tend to run your bolts pretty fast once you're on target?
It depends.
Depends on what you're doing. Yeah.
Not really. I for lack of better way to put this, I put thought into my cycling. I'm analyzing shot while I'm cycling that thing. I don't know whether that's right or wrong, but that's just what I tend to do. I find a lot of guys focus on release of the shot and run the next one in there as fast as they can. And I personally, I don't get that. I want to kind of process that last shot, and this is just kind of a natural secondary. That's me.
For
me,
it's
going to depend what you're doing, right? But go ahead.
Yeah, for me, I don't do a lot of PRS. I don't do any PRS. I don't do a whole lot of long distance shooting. For me, I try to do more, I'm more interested in practical shooting. So for me, with a bolt gun, that means hunting. So, there's sometimes I'll run it fast because I'm at the range, even because I'm practicing taking a shot and then having to take a second shot. Just so that, if that ever does, it hasn't happened to me yet, which is good. But just in case it ever does happen, I don't want the very first time I'm ever taking a second shot to be while the deer is bounding into the forest, but a lot of times too, if I'm just relaxing, shooting off my elbows off of a table at the range, I'm more interested in reacquiring my target after the shot so that I can, call my shot than I am in racking another round into the bolt.
Nice thing about steel targets is they don't bounce away.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I don't get to shoot steel all that much. It's Saskatoon Wildlife Federation. Yeah. There's 3 ranges. 2 of them you can't use big bore. And there's only one 8-inch gong at the big bore range. So
that's at 300, isn't it?
It's at 300, yeah. So I mean, the majority of my shooting with bolt action is on paper.
This is going to change this year, Kris.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for. Like, literally, that's the whole reason that I joined the podcast. Is like, how do I get an invite out to the fucking Rooster Ranch?
Right.
I thought it was the celebrity that came with being a co-host of the show, but
Oh no, man, my ego is already so big. I already
That's
think I'm a
right.
celebrity. Like
That's
that, yeah.
what do you think, Cary?
Yeah, so there's a few. A lot of it depends what you're doing. So say like Kris is talking about hunting. So I actually had that situation where I took a guy hunting this year, and it's first time never shot an animal before, right? So he shot, hit it. It was a good hit, and then he was so jacked up, right, that he's getting all excited. He's off the gun, and I was like, "Okay, get ready!" Like, so he cycled the bolt just like Kris was saying, and sure enough, she got up and took another bound, and he was ready, right? So in a hunting scenario, yeah, you want to observe that shot, make sure it's good, but you always want to have that second.
But
your follow up ready, right? So,
and in a PRS scenario, you can't reload, or what's the saying? You can't miss fast enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that in all
most guys
shooting
in that
sports?
competition they're going so fast, they're getting ahead of themselves, right? Like they're timing out, instead of getting 6 hits, they're getting 2 because they're going twice as fast, right?
Yeah.
But in that too, you're under a time constraint depending on what your time limit is, so you definitely have to cycle it fast, but you're better to take that split second, observe that impact, and make the correction that you need. And some of that's going to depend on your range, right? So if you're close enough and you can see it, you have time to cycle that bolt, where a lot of times when I'm shooting, say, 1,000 or past with my 308, I'll shoot and cycle right away because I can cycle it before that round impacts. And then I have time, to make that correction, and it's faster, and I'm shooting roughly the same wind conditions. I have less change in my conditions, right? So it is situation dependent, but a lot of, like, say where I came from in the military, everything's taught, unless you're in like a stalking scenario, like you run that bolt right away. So which again, there's lots of situations and there's different ways to approach it, right? So
Yeah.
I guess it's easier to cycle that bolt while you're waiting for the bullet to hit the target when you're shooting a 308.
That's another reason I shoot 308. So
Or you can just run a bolt like
say you're
Rob
watching
Nibs. Run a bolt like Rob from Bison Defense and just damn near rack the thing so hard you rip the goddamn bolt.
Especially from the wrong side, too.
Yeah, he's a lefty.
Jesus, that guy.
but you'll see a lot of that too. We see it a lot in courses too, is guys will short stroke, and like most rifles.
Oh God! Yeah.
I think I've seen one bolt fail. I saw I think it was some Italian bolt action.
6.5
busted
Carcano.
off. Yeah, the original 6.5.
Yeah, that's right.
But you can hammer on most bolts, like, make sure you're getting your full length of pull on that bolt, right? Because you'll see guys short stroke it and go it over top. So.
Okay, so I've got that Cadex sheepdog action that's got that short action throw. Is that going to have me develop bad habits, or?
I wouldn't say bad habits, but you have to be aware of it, right? Because I find I started shooting rim fire just to practice my positional. And you just have to be cognizant of, like, the bolt throw on a 22 is a lot different versus say where you've got a short action, right? So it's just being aware of that. And I usually go with, I'm pulling it all the way till she stops, and then, you ain't gonna break it. So
let's get into that a little bit, because I've had many debates on 22 long rifle as trainers. Now. There's my King of 2 Miles shooting partner. He and I are mostly on the same page. Like, I've got a trainer rifle for long range or PRS. It's a 223 Ackley. Fucking love the thing, and it's a true short action, right? Same thing that I would use in PRS. A lot of guys are going to the 22 long rifles, and it to me and Jens. It's a totally different setup. There's a different bolt throw, different stroke, everything else, and you don't get that recoil impulse like you do with a real rifle to get into your the real world scenario with a center fire rifle.
Do you think that it would be even worse using a 22 trainer than just doing dry fire with your actual rifle?
No, I don't think it would be worse than dry fire. I think dry fire is important. At least you get some kind of pulse, but the entire setup, shot, follow through, reset up and shot. I think is a lot different with a 22 long rifle if you're using it to practice for
center
fire, like dynamic games like PRS.
Yeah, makes sense.
What's your take, Cary?
Yeah,
You're
so
itching.
there's because I went back and forth on what I should do. Like I was looking at a 223 trainer, and then I came to the decision for the price of that, especially with the barrel life of the 308. I just bought more components for a 308. Then I'm practicing the same wind calls. You know what I mean? It's just more of the same.
Yeah,
doesn't always make sense depending on what caliber you're shooting. And then I talked to most of the top guys, and like what I love doing at the matches is I'll sit there and like I will literally just ask them questions. I'm sure they get sick of it, but how do you do this? How do you approach this? And most of the top guys were shooting, 10,022 a year, like all the top competitors essentially, because they just need it for the practice to get that good. So what I did is I got one of those little Savage tactical, I can't remember the model number, but similar stock to my PGW, and then I got a scope that was similar. So the same type of operation, like I still have to dial the scope even though it's a 22 scope. So I'm still conducting the same sequence essentially, but I'm getting those repetitions in for what I do. But the downfall of that is I don't have the same recoil, right? So you have to make sure that your fundamentals are solid. So
yeah, absolutely.
you don't have to worry about recoil
it's similar
management with
enough.
22. Yeah. But I think it's going to make you better, even if you have a little discrepancy.
This is where I think a lot of
advantages
guys. This is where I think a lot of guys are going to fall on their faces, especially with the less experienced guys, because of the proliferation of 22 trainers. Like some of the, like Scott Chitchell says, the Voodoos, the Bergeras, all that kind of stuff. The 22s that are coming out, the 700 footprints, so they've got the good stocks and all that kind of stuff.
But they still have a 22 bolt.
They do, but if they don't have the fundamentals nailed down in the first place with a center fire, are they going to keep? They don't have those fundamentals. They may not have those fundamentals in the first place to keep those fundamentals in play while they're shooting the 22 long rifle.
You're saying equipment can't replace fundamentals?
Yeah, partially. Yeah, for sure.
But if I buy the new race gun, I should be able to compete with the top guys, right?
Well, this is the thought, Sean. Absolutely.
Only if it's a hybrid.
Right. Yeah.
I like hybrids.
So do we.
Yeah, a lot of it is people are trying to buy skill, right? Whether it's PRS or whatever shooting sport. I'm sure you saw it in 3-gun.
Oh yeah.
Everything is. I know Todd put it up there, but fundamentals are fundamentals.
But that's
advanced shooting is just mastering fundamentals. That's all it is.
See, like
with
here,
the new stuff. Sorry, Sean. I need to get this out before I forget.
Go ahead.
The new stuff, people are effectively buying fundamentals.
Yep.
Like as far as I'm concerned, it's they're bypassing a lot of the stuff, and it goes back to the story I was sharing earlier about shooting a 260 and a 260 Ackley before getting back into 308 and learning a completely different game again. I was spoiled like crazy. I didn't have to execute those fundamentals with those 6.5s like I did eventually going back to a 308.
Well, and Kurt, for Luke's adage, I've been a proponent. Guys are like, well, should I go buy a Daniel Defense AR? Or should I go get sink $3,000 into an AR platform? no, you shouldn't. You should buy a $400, well, at the time, a $400 Norinco, and go take that extra $2,000 that you had budgeted for the rifle and sink it into an Earl Green course or a Jody Levesque, a Gogi course or whatever to gain those fundamentals. And then if you decide you want to upgrade from there, move forward, right? Whereas
Training.
Yeah. Sink that money into training and use guys like Cary and Cappy and Miles at Callsign and take their fundamentals course, take their win course. It's.
I think I would advise training over equipment to just about anyone. Like, should I buy this new piece of equipment, or should I buy a couple of private training lessons with somebody from Callsign 66? Get the training sessions.
Right. Buy the shitty car and learn how to race.
If you have to take your Mosin Nagant garbage rod, get the training.
Wow. Let's not go too far.
No, you gotta learn.
Get the training.
You gotta learn how to drive a stick before, right?
That's right.
Everyone needs to know how to drive a
Absolutely.
stick.
And a stick that doesn't make you use a hammer to get the fucking thing into battery.
No. You need to drive like a 1987 3-speed standard Suburban with a clutch that takes like 15 foot-pounds of pressure to engage.
Yeah. Or like Luke said, I wouldn't say a 223, but a Savage Axis or a Savage Precision or something that's relatively inexpensive to get you into the game.
100%.
And just show up. That's half the battle is showing up.
For sure. Well, you know what? What is that Prairie Brutality shoot? It was a bring any gun. Just shoot the damn thing.
Just show up.
Exactly.
We'll even let you borrow guns, right? And
right.
That's another animal within itself.
Scott Chitchell brings some perspective to this. Honestly, he says, "Excuse me,
That's not what he said."
COVID. Jesus, good thing I didn't come over tonight. Hey,
Scott says, "I'm talking once the bolt's closed, building the position, trigger pull, sight alignment. That to me is where it's at. How the bolt feels as it's closing." Or as it closes, isn't really a fundamental at all. Natural point of aim, sight alignment, steady position, trigger pull. Well, and that's what we're talking about, Scott, and everyone listening, is the fundamentals. If you don't have those fundamentals down pat in the first place, when you're cheating the system, you're never gonna rise to that level, I suppose, to get any use out of those trainers where you don't have to use those fundamentals.
You can't buy your way to not doing it.
No, that's right.
Exactly,
Cary. Yeah.
There's things that are going to give you advantage, but unless you could take a guy who's mastered the fundamentals, give him a Remington 700 that shoots one MOA ammo, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he'll run circles around someone that doesn't know the fundamentals that's shooting a 6mm.
Amen. Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
With that too, you're talking about, we get a lot of people that come on course and they have, I'm jealous of the stuff they have. Like we had one guy, 2 years, like $20,000 into the stuff he had. And he was trying to teach himself, like he has the right mindset, right? He's trying to learn, trying to make himself better. And he's trying to get better at the craft, right? And he said he learned more in 2 days than he did in a few years. But he's like, after going through everything, he's like, I don't need this. I need this. I definitely don't need this. But he's like, the money that I wasted, he figured out what he wanted, but it was a process to get there, right? Where
well, that's another thing with the sort of the long range in the PRS game too. You can learn what other guys you can learn what other guys have already learned the hard way. I'm one of those guys where I took on this game myself about 10 years ago, and I was the only guy I knew that was doing what I was trying to do, and it was a long road around. But there's so many guys in long range and PRS that are willing to share so much.
Yeah.
And you can bypass that hard learning experience. You really can if you get in with the right group of guys.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why PRS kind of has a leg up and why it's expanding so much, is that the community is just phenomenal. Like, hey, you've never shot off a tripod? Here, have my carbon fiber $2,000 whatever, and or you know, hey, you have a Vortex Diamondback Tactical on your PRS rig. Why don't you look through my Schmidt PM2 Ultra whatever and see the difference here and tell me what you think, and you know, things like that. Like, everyone's willing to help. It's
an interesting phenomenon where there aren't that many secrets that guys want to hold close to their chest. They're willing to share it. It's
the secret is there is no secret. So
yeah, I think like, you're right, Cary.
Literally, when it comes to the fundamentals and all that stuff, there is no, you know, you have to master the fundamentals and put the time in, and you can't.
Yeah,
you have to put the time in. It doesn't matter. So.
Absolutely.
Like, Chris, like if I showed up to a course thinking I'm a tough guy, and you put me in your guard and, you know, get me in a triangle choke, I'm not going to think I'm very tough. You know, and then my first thought is going to be, oh, fuck this guy, you put me in a triangle choke. My first thought is going to be, how did you do that?
How am I going to stab him in the dead of night when he's not watching?
Yeah. you know, or it's just unreal.
It's, I don't know. If you're talking about new people and like perception, here's the thing, and I this is it in combat sports, martial arts, and I guarantee you it's the same thing in shooting. Number one, new people don't know what they don't know. Number two, the difference between somebody who reaches proficiency and somebody who just, you know, goes around telling everybody for the rest of their life that they trained or did whatever, you know, when they were younger, is the ability to control and understand their perspective. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If you can contextualize what's going on, and it doesn't matter if I walk onto the range with Kurt and Kurt's dropping bombs at 1,500 meters and I can barely hit shit at 800, or if, you know, we step onto the mats and, you know, 2 minutes in, Kurt is gassed and I've tapped him 3 times. Mm-hmm. It's
highly likely.
It's the same thing though, right?
For sure.
If I can contextualize how Kurt was able to do that, and then I'm going to be able to do learn most effectively and get better. And if Kurt can do the same thing, then it's the exact same thing. It doesn't matter what sport or practice or whatever we're talking about.
Or it's your mindset, right? That's going to make you
100%
succeed or progress, right?
So let's unpack that, Cary. What do you think is a winning mindset?
I learned a lot of those lessons the hard way. So, but
you didn't have Grandpa handing that down.
That just means you can speak from experience, right?
I had some really good experiences when I was on the shooting team for the military. And I got lucky because I was shooting with senior guys. Like, I was new, and so, you know, they had a lot of those grandpa lessons for me. And
come here, boy.
You need to sort your life out. But I didn't realize, because I had always, you know, I had been a good shooter and I was performing really well. But once I started to fail, that's where things spiraled. And then I got lucky because those guys, they kind of stepped in and said, hey, you got to look at it this way. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, learn your lesson and then burn it. Don't hold on to it. Right. So improve each time. Like, you're going to make mistakes. I don't care who you are. You're going to, and I enjoy watching that, because I actually watch, when I'm at the PRS matches, I watch the reactions of the top guys to see what they do. Yeah. But I was lucky enough to work with, when I was on the shooting team, I got to work with a sports psychologist. And they brought him in for the shooting team, and I was like setting records, like just killing it. And for whatever reason, I can't remember what happened, but I tubed something, and then I was so fixated on that failure that I just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I remember sitting there, I was literally on the firing line, and he's standing there beside me, and he's like, how many rounds do you think you fired? You know what I mean? And I was like, well, that's probably quite a few, you know what I mean? And he's literally like, you're overthinking it. Just look at the crosshairs and don't think about anything else. And it literally right back turned her around. And then same thing, I had those senior guys pulling me aside, and they're like, you're too good. to worry about that mistake.
Yeah.
So fix what you did wrong, and then literally just burn it. Just leave it behind you.
Yeah.
And for me, I had to do it to learn from it.
Yep.
But it's your ego is your number one enemy.
You're your own worst enemy. Kurt,
It's a
what,
fine.
what animal in the animal kingdom has the shortest memory?
Roosters.
Rooster.
Okay.
Beat me to it.
I don't know.
A goldfish.
Oh, that's right. Too.
So
I knew that.
when I used to coach box lacrosse, I would tell goalies who just had an absolute dog shit performance, I would say, be a goldfish. Don't worry about it.
Oh, so true, man.
You know, it's funny. I tell fighters something similar. I think I may have said this before on air. I can't remember. So if I have, go ahead and stop me. But I use the dog and the cat analogy.
Yep.
Have you ever
You've told
watched
that.
Yeah, have you ever watched a dog walk into a screen door? Well, it holds its head low, its tail tucks between its legs, and is moping around for the next 5 minutes like, oh boy, that was stupid. You watch a cat run into a screen door, he starts strutting around like, yeah, motherfucker, I meant to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So
well,
be the cat. You got punched in the face?
Yeah.
You meant to let him punch you in the face so that you could set up your right cross.
So
you know what? You have kids in sports, and you see them mope when they lose. That
100%.
is exactly what you tell them. And I try and tell my boys
You see
exactly
adults do that in sports.
Learn from it.
I don't give a fuck about the adults.
Kurt, when I call you to talk about how shitty my workday was,
Yeah, man.
okay, I do that like almost like every other day, right?
Yeah.
And but what I do is like, okay, this is what happened at the end of the day. This is what happened. I journal it and I say, this is the experience. This is what I did, and this is what I did good. This is what I did wrong. How do I move forward from this?
And what does Uncle Rooster tell you?
I'll just keep your stick on the ice, young Padawan, or whatever it is. Young grasshopper.
Keep your stick on the ice, young Padawan. That's a good mix of references, eh?
Anyway, Mighty Ducks and or whatever it is. Anyway,
And Star Wars.
but the same goes for shooting. You know, you almost like any good NHL goalie will just tell you, yeah, whatever. It was a shit game. Let's move on. Same thing with PRS shooting or any competition shooting. If like I've seen national level IPSC champions, Eric Graffel, Phil Reddy, who fucked up a reload, and they're like, oh man, that sucked. But then they're like, whatever, let's move on. Let's move forward. You don't see Eric Cortina or Miles Moser when he's on the line. Well, Miles is different, but Miles will hop on the line and be like, "Oh, if I fucked up that with that DTI or whatever," and then, but he's like, "Whatever." It's just it's just shooting, right? It's
I think.
Well, how many times has whining and moping actually fixed the fucking problem?
Doesn't.
This many.
That many.
For our listeners, that's a zero. But I think we have to mention there's a fine line between self-reflection, so that you can learn from what happened, and fixation, and we call it shoulding on yourself. I should have done this. I should have done that. Right?
Absolutely.
Oh, should on your chest. I mean,
shouldn't.
Okay. You
only if you pay
out.
me. The shooting on yourself is destructive to your progress. Self-reflection, so that you can learn, is productive to your progress.
Yeah.
If you haven't won, like if you don't win in your mind first, you're not going to win. Like if you're not going into it believing it that you're going to win, you have to be in that mindset, because like you said, if you start thinking about it beforehand, whatever you're thinking about, that's what you're going to do. So
right. I remember when we were talking to Daniel Shaw. I forget what he called it. I can forget the term that he uses, but basically it's acting as though it's already happened.
Mm-hmm. The Oprah mindset. Visualize it, and you will achieve it.
You get a car. You get a car. Yeah, I wish I could remember the term that Daniel Shaw used, but I mean, it's exactly what you're saying, Cary. You have to, if it hasn't already happened in your mind, it'll never happen in reality.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of visualization. I use it even for PRS. Like I use it at work and for quite a few things, but I'll actually if I have time and I'm waiting, I'll go over, like I have my couple different sequences, like my pre-shot sequence, and then get everything ready for my stage. And I'll actually visualize my entire stage before I do it. So I find I really like it, and it works for me.
Yep.
Doesn't work for everybody, but I would highly recommend trying it. So
I would question who it doesn't work for. I remember when I was fighting, I would do the same thing. I would go through the fight multiple times in my head, several days before the actual fight, and you try to visualize. I mean, obviously a fight's more dynamic than like I'm going to shoot it at this spot in the target. But I mean, in that case, you're visualizing multiple possibilities
outcomes
during the fight, multiple outcomes.
Sure.
And you're visualizing yourself dealing with every one of them.
Yeah.
positive outcomes.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I can attest. Like I played fastball, top level fastball for a lot of my life, and visualizing batting, hitting the ball, and when you're playing fastball, you're dealing with balls that rise balls, drop balls, curve balls, change ups.
That's a lot of balls.
That's a lot of balls, man. A lot of balls coming at your face. And but visualizing it, I can attest, honestly, it helps. It really does work. I've done it in the past. I've done it with shooting, but I know lots of top level ball players all throughout North America that have used this tactic. Or this exercise that it really does help. It helps kind of calm the mind, because you don't know what's coming when that pitcher delivers the ball, but you can predict to a certain extent what he's going to throw and what you're going to do with it. It's got to be the same thing with shooting.
I think it's probably one of the most neglected, whether I'm sure it's for MMA or whatever sport.
Anything. Yep.
The mindset is probably the number one thing that is neglected. Like, obviously there's a very physical, functional factor to the shooting side of it, but I think once you get those fundamentals and you have your gear squared away, if you look at the top guys versus what separates them is their mindset, right? So.
For sure.
And probably the hardest thing to train. I mean, we all love to talk about it. We all love to be like, no, this is all it is, right? But it's probably the hardest thing to train.
Absolutely. To keep those things in perspective while you're executing that activity.
And being mindful of it in the moment, right?
That's it.
I mean, when we're sitting here talking about it on a podcast, we can all sound like we're experts at it. But I'm telling you right now, like my 2 losses that I had in the ring were entirely because I didn't think of it. I wasn't mindful of it in the moment.
Well, like Sean says so commonly, that once that beeper goes off, what was I supposed to do now?
Cary, you were in the military. Every plan is great until you make contact.
Yeah, you got to be able to adapt, and like you'll see it, say on like a PRS stage, someone will get up and they haven't checked their equipment or whatever, and they get up and they got their scope cap up there.
Yep.
And as soon as they hit that little thing, they trip, right? And then it spirals, and then they're all flustered trying to deal with that, and they just watch that clock's gone. You know what I mean? It's a steady. I'm a big fan of sequences, so like kind of orders and routine. Like it seems kind of opposite, but like the routine helps you be adaptable. I got mine. I was actually overseas, and I got to work with the American marksmanship unit guys. Super professional, like top shooters in the world. And I was sitting on the range one day, and this the one guy was over in the corner, and he's got his arms up and he's going like this, and I was like, what the fuck is that guy doing? Yeah, maybe he was practicing 3-gun like Sean there. But he's actually Olympic level trap and skeet shooter, and what he was doing, he was just over on the side of the range. He's not shooting trap anytime soon, but he's going through every single one of those stages. He was visualizing those, and so when he was done, I was like, "Hey, man, like what are you doing?"
How'd you shoot?
Yeah, so 100%. But he started explaining his sequence about when he goes up, where he has his routine where he checks everything, goes through it, checks his rifle,
he plants his feet, everything.
Yeah, and I was like,
it's like a basketball player shooting a free throw. Everyone does it different. you know?
Yeah. But he has that sequence, right? And then I was like, well, how can I use this for my job? And it's going to make me better at my job. So that's how I started. Again, it doesn't have to be the same, but I go through, say when I'm getting ready for my PRS stage, you know, I start front to rear, my cap, set my dope, parallax, windage, magnification, and it's a sequence, right? So if I go through it each time, I know things are good, and then you're not going to have those minor mistakes once you get into it, right?
But you're not to the point of superstition, are you?
Superstition exists in every sport.
It does.
Yeah.
Shows up, Cary. Where are my green M&Ms? I said green only. Fuck.
Yeah. Get those charms.
Left sock first, right sock second.
Yeah.
I actually wasn't, but I got before my first tour, I got sent a pendant with St. Michael's, and I wore it every single day. And the one day I didn't wear it,
no shit,
just about got her, and I wore that thing for the rest of the tour. I don't know. Don't mess with things. I'm not super superstitious, but hey, if it works for you, no matter.
Hey guys, should we back up a bit? There's a couple of good comments and questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Carlos Hathcock. One thing with the PRS guys, we all share gear with everyone, especially the new guys. Just trying to get into it, just to get them going, have fun with it, and keep them interested until they figure out what they need. Absolutely, it's what I've found too. Try my shit. Exactly what you were saying before, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
And their match fees are just as much as your match fees. So.
That's exactly right. Kelly brings a good point. Pro tip: volunteer at a PRS match and watch and observe what shooters do and use before you buy. Often they will offer you the opportunity to try their equipment and share tips. Much the same thing. Keenan here. That goes to exactly what Cary has always said and taught. No secrets, just practice. So thank you for always giving back to the community. So that's back to the no secrets comment.
I have yet to meet a guy that, whatever. I've done the match here in Meaford. It's the only Canadian match that I've done here.
Right.
Which I would like to do. I was trying to get to the one in BC in the fall. I'd like to get more involved with the ones here. And, but even in the States, the national level matches, I have yet to meet the guy that won't either help you out or explain or let you use. Even within the squad, like half the time, we'll use the same tripod or whatever. And I think it's kind of a cool thing with the sport is there's no real, I've never seen someone not be helped, if they need help, regardless of their level. So
it seems a bit of a departure from some of the shooting sports that we're sort of traditionally familiar with, where like we talked about the gaming and all that kind of stuff, and somehow the precision long range game is different. It's a bit of an anomaly, I think.
It's more inclusive and more, I don't know.
For sure it is, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is, but it's cool to watch. I actually, I was talking about, making all excuses and I don't want to do whatever to go making excuses to not go to the match. So I actually took a really good friend of mine from BC. So I got him into hunting, and then he wanted to try long range shooting. So I was like, Kate, you're coming to Washington. And he's like, no, I'm nowhere. He's not ready. And I essentially bullied him into actually going. Like I basically had to threaten him into the truck. And
I bet he put up a real fight, didn't he?
No, not really. But
no.
But he was, he had the same concerns. He's like, well, I've only been shooting for so long, and my gear isn't the greatest, whatever. Because he's looking at my stuff, right? And I was literally like, fuck it, you can use whatever. I got half the kit. Get your ammo, and it was a bit of a fight, but he's so addicted to PRS now. Like
it's funny how that happens.
12-step program, right?
Yeah,
and that's literally all he wants to do now. But to see the progress, I think he did two matches. To see the progress in him as an individual shooter is impressive. So,
do you think that like taking a guy? Well, listen, we were talking before the show about me how I kind of learned most of the stuff I know on my own. I was lucky enough to have my own range out at the farm, and did long range, figured all that shit out on my own. Wasn't really challenged by a whole bunch of other guys. Do you think shooting a PRS match would really jack that up a whole lot more, like exceptionally more?
Yeah.
Even for like say myself, I didn't want to do it. At first I let my ego get in the way, right? I got to practice, I got to get it sorted out. Everything had to be perfect, right? Which I taught myself out of. If you took, when I was there, one of the best shots in the cell, like I was up there. There's probably two of us fighting for the top out of the cell there. If you took me from there versus one season of PRS, I could run circles around that guy before. Yeah.
Definitely.
Which is one of the reasons we try to get the operational guys down there to see it, and it's gaining more exposure.
Yeah.
And it's gaining more ground. Like people are starting to see the utility of it, especially for the work side of it. But yeah, to push you out of your comfort zone, it's gonna push you over the edge, and you got to let that ego go, and you're gonna get your ass kicked. I don't care who you are. And
Yep.
It doesn't matter if you're a military guy or whatever. There's a lot of agency guys, police, whatever, and they think I guarantee you go to one of those matches and you're gonna have some 15-year-old kid just run circles around you. So.
Yep.
Fuck that 15-year-old kid.
Well, you know what, though? That's a healthy response, though. Because then you're going to say, hey, that kid's going to be at the same match next year. You're going to set a goal.
I can beat him up in the parking lot before the event.
I'm going to taunt
his fucking parents' tires.
I'm going to Tanya Harding this little fucker so that he can't get to the thing. No, it's I'm this guy.
With that we threw all our credibility out the window.
Right. A 15-year-old kid. But no, back like in reality, you're gonna set a goal for yourself. You're gonna show up. You're gonna be scared shitless. That buzzer's gonna go off. You're gonna get the adrenaline rush, and you're gonna be like, "Fuck me, that was fun. Let's do it again." Yeah. And then you're gonna do it again, and then you're gonna do dog shit. You're gonna place 29th out of 30th, and you're gonna be like, "What the fuck am I doing?" And then you're gonna be like, going to drink beers after with the guys, and they're gonna be like, hey, you didn't do that bad. You could improve here, and here, and try this, and but
let's talk a little bit about what it takes to absorb that rather than reject it and go, no, fuck these guys. I got gamed or whatever the hell, right?
Huh?
You've got to be a little bit open-minded.
For sure.
Right? You get your ass handed to you, and you've at least got to be of enough mind to say, okay, maybe I do have stuff to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Right?
Maybe I'm not the god of shooting,
Right. Because
but a lot of guys steer away from that. A lot of guys don't want to do it because they don't want to have their reputations or whatever. And
I'm going to pick on a particular group of guys. And I might as well say it outright. F-class guys. And listen, for my area around here, I've known quite a few, and I bring them out to my range, and they're all great belly shooters.
Yep.
And fantastic. And I remember back about 8 years ago, I thought, okay, this is awesome, but fuck you guys. I'm going to put you into positions that you aren't used to. You sit there and brag about how well you can shoot at 1,000 yards off your belly and off your bipod and rear bag and all that kind of stuff. How about when you're kneeling or sitting or shooting off some sort of barricade or off a
Toyota rack
or whatever? Right. And you got to understand me. I have an engorged fuck you center of my brain right next to my amygdala.
Is that the medical term, the fuck you center?
Yes, it is.
Fueled by that beard.
That's right. It's in there somewhere. And 9/10 of the guys didn't show up.
Of course.
But the 1/10 finally figured out, hey, there is more to shooting than just this kind of antiquated shoot off your belly. We've been doing this for years, and we've been competing like this and gaming and bragging and everything else. It's I just got tired of it. Okay, fuck you guys, let's do this.
Yeah, it's how you approach it too, right? Like, I'm sure you guys see it dealing with the different shooting communities, but everyone's kind of got their corner, right? And same thing for me. Like when I was in Ottawa on the shooting team there, they had some of the F-class guys were there, and I'd heard of it. I'd never really seen it. Like I knew what it was, right? But I'd never. So I went over and watched them, and the thing is with each of those, like it's not mine. My ADHD, I would not be able to sit there and do that. Like I got to be moving or doing something or whatever. Right. You know, it doesn't hold my attention. But if you look at their wind calling ability and you watch how they read those flags,
yeah, man.
So I started talking to them like, hey, man, like how do you tell the difference in the mile an hour on the flags? And it doesn't matter what shooting community, you can learn something from each. So
this is exactly true, and I don't mean to take anything away from those F-class guys because they are very good at what they do.
Definitely,
exactly. Yeah.
But you can extract something from what they do.
You're talking about being unwilling to step out of your comfort zone or out of your wheelhouse.
For sure. Take what you do know and apply it to something else that's a little bit more difficult, something that will challenge you a little bit more.
But if you look at, say, like 3-gun there, like what you were talking about, well, I was talking to a couple of those guys. It's funny because a lot of the PRS guys are actually guys that got out of 3-gun and then come over to the precision rifle stuff. And so I like picking their mindset on how do they approach stages. You know what I mean? How do they, you're talking about where you're walking your way through it. They're very good at that because that's what they're doing there.
Well, there is some strategy. Right.
Yep. What can I take from that and apply it to what I'm using it for? Right. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Like you take something like 3-gun and apply the strategy part to PRS. Really, with F-class, the strategy is to hit the goddamn X. But you have wind reading ability. Timing, all that kind of stuff. And
what do they do to achieve that, right?
Right, exactly.
Well, and when like my first experience with an F-class shooter was at my private range, and they had this kick-ass CNC milled front rest, the one shooter, and I walk up to him like, that is fucking cool.
Yeah.
What is that? He's like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. You can't afford it.
Oh my.
And I'm like,
that elitism.
What do you shoot? F-class. Okay, I'm never gonna fucking do that again in my life.
Yeah.
And
but that's what I mean by how do you approach it, right? Do you want to build that bridge or you want to burn it, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, there's some people that want to burn it because
don't get me wrong,
you're not. Yeah.
I like burning things down every once in a while too. It's just a time and place, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Some people just like to see the world burn, right?
Well,
Doug Rodenbush asks, for those of us who aren't that familiar with the term, what is F-class? F-class is Farquharson class. It's
Farquharson.
Yes.
Farquharson.
Yes, Farquharson.
The goes great with
it?
port.
The Dominion of Canada Rifle Association.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think is how it goes. They shoot out to 1,000 yards. It's precision shooting. It's you try and hit an X
off a $2,500 bench that you arrest that. And then a monopod and
weren't we talking about how great and inclusive the shooting community is earlier in the podcast?
I know, and we're just shitting on
no, that was
guys.
them.
Sorry.
That wasn't
no.
us.
You know what? We're not, because they do bring a lot to the table.
Yeah.
But it's
you're also talking about specific people who are shooting F class. You're not necessarily talking about F class as a whole.
no, that's
Like
right.
if you had asked me, I would get a lot of my stuff like from that trap and skeet guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you had told me beforehand, I'd be like,
Yeah.
"There's no way." You know what I mean? But
Right.
a lot of that stuff really changed the competition side for me. So
Yeah.
you know, it's do you want to learn from it or not? So
Exactly, Doug.
Yeah.
You're right. It is Charlie Farquharson.
Not
who
Lord
started that.
Farquaad, whoever wrote that.
That was shot.
I actually thought you guys were joking at first. But
No, well,
No, that's the guy's name.
Farquaad. Yeah, that's yeah. But what did?
But
Jens
even
say?
that, you know, everyone likes to make fun of F class, you know. But
Why?
I'm sure with everything going on, I don't want to get into
Well, the
politics.
purest-
But as the communities, if we got to start working together and put whatever
Definitely.
aside,
true.
and
Yeah.
we got to start working together for the bigger picture.
And I
So,
think that's becoming more common. Like I spent, Jens and I went and spent 5 hours with Dennis Lair of Go Ballistic Gunsmithing last
The
weekend.
pride of Star City, Saskatchewan.
Well, that's right. And he does so much gunsmithing for the Saskatchewan F-class community. It's not even funny.
No.
And he was just appreciative of a couple of guys that talk the same language as him, and he just wanted to talk long range shooting and what I want to say, tactics, the what goes into it, what all the different considerations, hand loading and everything. And he's one of those guys. He's a younger guy. He's younger than me, but who isn't? And you know, he wants to grow the sport. It's not. He doesn't have that elitist attitude like some of the older guys have. That this is our sport, and how dare you bring anything new?
Yeah.
You know, let's grow the sport. Knowledge is power, and shared knowledge is
Definitely.
even more power. Right?
But I would have never learned about those special medical reloading scales if it wasn't for F class.
Yeah.
Watching those guys with their special auto tricklers and blah blah blah, right? And I definitely want one.
You can take that from it, right? Like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what community it's. You can learn something, and that's one thing I figured out teaching is you'll learn. You know, even if you have someone who knows nothing about it, you'll learn something teaching them, or vice versa. So,
Doug Rodenbush.
Yeah.
I'm not younger. Oh, I'm not younger than you, Kurt. Oh, okay. I thought Doug was saying I'm younger than you, Kurt.
Joke's on you, Doug.
Yeah.
Kurt is actually 74 years old. So
I just use oil of Olay.
that's right. That's right. And the blood of 50 virgins in the beard or whatever.
Maybe.
Yeah. But the moral of the story I think we can get from this episode is bring the proper mindset and don't be a Lord Farquaad. Farquaad, whatever.
Farquaad, yes. Oh, good Lord, yes.
Anyway,
That's what we're literally going to call every gun snob that from now until the end of time.
that's a joke.
He is now
I am
Lord
like it.
Farquaad.
I am not deleting that meme from our.
Yeah. If you're a jerk at the
overlays.
range, you are officially Lord Farquaad.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of, especially when people are learning something, they're kind of looking like to find the one thing that's gonna work, and that's it. And it literally, like I've been shooting, like I don't know, 32 years now, like done it professionally, whatever, and I've probably learned more in the last year. Like I just keep learning more and more, and if you stop learning, then
You're done.
you know, you always have to keep learning, and especially with the way things are advancing, and you just have to just
Okay, so down this rabbit hole a little bit with with your experience and everything in this last year, your statement. What have you learned so much that's elevated your skills?
I would say it's fine tuning a lot of the mental stuff, and I find the more that I learn, the more that I go. You guys are gonna get sick of hearing this. The more I go back to the fundamentals, like it's we're always looking for that new gear and everything, and I always come back to everything comes back to fundamentals. You think it's going to be something over here that I'm going to get this or whatever, and it comes back to that. But it's I don't know if I'm answering that. I don't know if I'm answering your question there, but
Doesn't matter.
there's so much out there. It's kind of like the MMA thing, right? Like you don't even really know what you don't know. And
Okay, so what you're saying is you can learn fundamentals, have them down pat. You can improve on fundamentals.
Of course you can.
Always. It never
master
ends.
them again. Master them again. So
Master them again.
Well, that's the thing. Like we always talk about perfection. We're not fucking robots. We're human beings. We will never achieve perfection, ever. We will. When we pick up a new skill, we pick and a fundamental of that skill. We learn part of it very quickly. The gross part of it very quickly, and then the closer we get to perfection, the slower that progression comes. Like the slower the progression comes, right? So by the time you're at that advanced level, like even Jerry Mitchell, like I guarantee you he can improve his trigger pulling.
Damn straight.
Right? Especially with a bump stock, because he sucks at it. Right? And
like he needs one of those.
I know, right? But the unfortunate part of the human condition is we usually die before we reach that point where we actually get perfection. Right?
But
so it's just a matter of
beard.
how good exactly. But even that, there's one hair out of place on the left side of your cheek.
I know. I've been on the road since 5.
But it's just continually seeking that improvement and that perfection, right? Like
that drive to do so.
I'm not there. I don't know if it exists yet, but if you had told me a couple of years ago, the mindset and the stuff that I ended up learning, some of it I did naturally, but if you don't know, right, you can't improve on it. And then say, like when I work with that sports psychologist, you get someone that breaks it down and you're like, okay, well, I'm doing this wrong, so I can improve this. Well, you're still doing the other things correctly. It just makes you that much better, and you can apply that. Again, if you had told me that a couple of years ago, I probably would have said, that's not a big deal. But
and things change, things evolve, right? I mean, let's look at pistol shooting. In up until the 60s with one-handed bladed sideways, or if it's two-handed, it's where's my camera? It's you cup the hand in the other hand, and then all of a sudden everybody's doing grip and I saw but it's not isosceles anymore. It's Weaver not. Stance, and now everybody's back on isosceles, but it's a modified isosceles because they have a staggered foot stance. Like everything is always evolving. So if everything would stay the same, maybe somebody out there would actually achieve perfection on something, but nothing ever stays the same.
And to keep up on it, like you said, even like the mental side of the house, you can learn it, but if you're not practicing it, right, if you're not keeping that sharp, right, you can. It's kind of like physical fitness. If you're not using it, right, you're going to lose it. It's a
perishable skill. Yeah.
So, which I've always liked. Say the fighting side of it. I actually read. I'm trying to remember. I think it's called Fighter's Mind. I read it a few years ago.
Okay.
But same thing as talking mindset, and it, I always appreciate that kind of crossover to that community. But yeah, I just try to find as much as I can on that. And then.
Yeah.
So.
I think they're very similar. It's funny because I've only really been involved in the shooting community for about the last 5, maybe 6 years. But the more and more involved I get in it, the more and more I see similarities to fighting and martial arts. They're very, very similar, which is funny because, high level martial artists, especially when they're talking about self-defense and that sort of thing, absolutely discount firearms. And they think I would just disarm him of his firearm. Yeah, sure you would, buddy. And on the other side, I think perhaps maybe a little bit less, but it still exists. I think you see, I don't need to learn how to defend myself hand to hand. I've got a gun. You know what I mean? I think there's so much more crossover than either side really admits or wants to.
But
admit,
even
maybe.
for that too, with your side of the house, there you got guys who are actually they're throwing their hat in the ring. You know what I mean? Like literally, where I know for Kris and Miles and myself, we're gonna lead by example. Like I remember when they first approached me, and so I had kind of left, like I wasn't operational anymore, and I was like, well, if I'm not doing it professionally, like in that context, I don't want to be that instructor that's like, 10 years ago, I was doing this or that or whatever. So like, I know for myself, all the guys I learned from, like I got really lucky with the guys that I learned from, like really professional, they were top notch, but they always led by example, and they are always doing, they're leading from the front essentially, but they're practicing what they preach. Right. So that's a big motivator for me to do PRS is, I'm not just sitting there telling you something I did, however long ago. And I know Miles and Cappy and all the guys we got, they're all the same kind of mindset. So for me anyways, I'm not going to not practice what I preach. So
yeah, for sure. Huh. This has been a great conversation.
To get all serious and shit on you.
No, you're.
It's all good. When Miles and Cappy were out last at my range there, we just wanted them to come out and have a good time and shoot. Yeah. And they actually got into teaching quite a lot. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to take advantage, and I told them this. I didn't want to take advantage of their skills just to improve ours. I wanted them to have fun and everything, and they assured me, both of them, that no, this is what they do. This is what their goal is to pass along this knowledge to the shooting community, and they knew damn well that we were going to pass it along as well to the people that we shoot with. And it's definitely commendable for sure.
How much have you done with maple seed, Kris?
I took maple seed. I can't remember how that was. Holy crap, we're coming up on 4 years ago now. I think 3, 4. I don't know. But I've been doing an instructor and training with them since the first year that I qualified. See, 3 or 4
I actually
years.
I met Rick. I want to say it was Meaford.
Yep.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I probably had a few whiskeys, but I had a good chat with him, and I'm really impressed with that program. And I met one of the fellas. I met one of the fellas from the university. You have to forgive me. The university like shooting club there. I think they're
University
USF. Yep.
Yeah, I had same thing. Like we need more, especially as a community, we need that. But I was really impressed, and then I've talked to Kelly a few times there, and it's we need more of that in the community. And
well, the big thing about maple seed, like it's not crazy shit. Nobody's teaching anything that, like, by and large, it's like early 20th century rifleman skills, so it's not like it's magical. It's number one
fundamentals.
It's fundamentals, but it's number one that the Kelly and Rick and the other guys that started Maple Seed up in Canada, they did a really good job of organizing the information. That's number one. And number two, just standardizing it and sticking to it and teaching it, because one thing we were talking about it earlier, one thing that the gun community I think has always been really, really good at is that people are always willing to share knowledge. And that's great. But I also think that that's a double-edged sword, because there are, some people have been very willing to share, frankly, bad knowledge.
Yes.
And on the other side of that coin, everybody's always been great at sharing knowledge, but I think the firearms community as a whole is still, I'm not going to say weak, but it's maybe in its infancy of standardizing and teaching knowledge in a standardized way. And I think that, Maple Seed especially is starting to really do that. And they're really the first that I'm aware of. They're the first national level program where you're getting the same information, whether you're getting it at Meaford, Kingston, Saskatoon, or Vancouver.
So
No,
tell me your guys' experiences here, but I had really good mentors growing up, like shooting and hunting, and I kind of didn't really realize how good they were until I went hunting with other people. Like when I moved to Alberta, I joined the military and everything, and I would hunt with other people, and you see the different experiences, the different ways, the different mentors and whatever. And same thing that when I joined the military, I didn't really realize how lucky I was with the guys that I learned from and the mentorship, right? And then even working with the guys in 6.6, then you look at what Rick and those guys are doing, right? Like, not everybody has that, which is where I think, like you were saying that weekend, you got guys like Cappies and Miles. They're, that's what they want to do, right? So yeah. So it's kind of you got to keep passing it on, right? So,
well, there you go. Nice. That was a hell of a conversation.
It's good.
We went a little longer
It's
than
a
our
lot.
standard recording time, but that's okay. We're going all over the place, which is
just
good.
cut the last 20 minutes out.
No, we're not cutting shit. This is awesome. Wow. Where do we go from here? Well, I don't know. I think we should wrap it up, and we got to have Cary back on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can definitely go further at some point, but
He's a good deep dive guest, eh? We need to get him back. So,
well, I appreciate you guys having me on. So I know I was on.
It's about time. Yeah. Last year.
You know what? I think we got to have some PRS matches out at my place and attend a few others. You and me, Sean, and maybe Kris.
Yeah,
maybe Kris if you
Can I
get the ass
come
and gear.
too?
Absolutely.
Once we get this Chinese flu out of the way too, we should go do some in the States. So
I hope you come, Kris. You know what? I've got a rifle you can use.
Well, I've got a rifle, but it'll get me at least out to 100 meters.
Well, I have a better one.
You're a tenth of the way. Well, right on.
So what's the standard ammunition out there? Like non-typical whitetail or?
hey!
Yeah.
Do not knock that, Kurt. What was I making hits to with that? With 140 grain
kidding.
non-typical federal whitetail.
At least 35 meters.
No, it was. Did I make a hit?
It was a ways out there. It was 800 anyway.
At
800
least
meters.
At least.
Yeah,
with federal non-typical whitetail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a little bit impressed. A little bit. A little bit. Not much, but a little bit.
Anyway.
Yeah. So.
Well, if you want to hear more of this jargon and if you want to hear Cary talk, go back and listen to our previous episode. Wait, was that Gunning Around days or was that First Focal Plane days? That was Gunning Around days. We got to have them all back on.
Yeah.
We got to have the whole crew. We got to have the whole crew back on again and talk about this year and everything. But anyway, visit us at facebook.com/FFP podcast. Leave a review. Let us know how we're doing. If you don't like the show, tell us, right? And how can we improve? Because without you guys,
show, screw you.
Yeah, well, I guess.
We're just talking about setting ego aside and always improving.
Yeah. No. If you don't like me, screw you.
I have no ego. I've been married twice.
But check us out on our
speaking perfection.
Right.
Third time's the charm, right, Kurt?
Yeah.
Kurt? But also, guys, we have a kick-ass website, ffpp.ca. Check us out on there. We have, sponsor links on there with Callsign, EM Precision Rifles. We have all our previous episodes up on there. We have great articles written by Kurt and Random John. The article, guys, there.
Now, just Random John.
Random John. Check us out on there, guys. And you can also contact us through the website, I think. There's a tool on there that could get us going, and that was built by Duncan and the crew at Boomstick Media.
Yes.
So
Yes.
they're doing a hell of a job out there. So
That's good work.
oh yeah, I am quite impressed. So
Good website. Hopefully we get more content on there, like this guy, like
Well,
more articles.
all of us.
I know.
All of us.
I know.
It's not just you, man. You've done like 12 on there. It's we gotta get going.
It's coming. It's coming.
And anybody interested too, we've got our website updated for our courses for the year there. So
Yep.
we've got
Done
a
by
couple kinda in
Boomstick
the
as
works
well.
there.
Yep.
Yep, does good work. So if you're interested at all, look at the website. If you guys can make it out, we love to see you guys out there. So
You bet.
Awesome. Thanks, Cary.
Where can people find you guys, Cary? What is that website?
Callsign66.com there, and we've got all our course listed on there. We have the spring civilian and law enforcement up there, and then we have a couple that are kind of in the works, seeing how the year plays out. So
Yeah. Cool.
You know what? I'm sorry, but isn't it callsign66.ca?
It is.
It is, yeah. Well, callsign66.com will redirect you to callsign66.ca.
It will, hey?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
I
I
was
just wanted to make sure it was
testing you
right.
there, Rooster.
That's okay.
Excellent.
They did it right. They got the redirect.
Cary hasn't cashed his social media manager check yet.
You greasy son of a bitch.
Unless it's in Kestrel, I'm out.
All right, on. So let's go around the horn. Do we got any shout-outs this week? Let's start with you, Cary. Do you get any shout-outs?
Yeah, I'd like to thank all our, we've got our sponsors there, PGW, Schmidt and Bender, Hearst Precision, Corth, 2020 Insight. We've had, a great thing about all this, we've had a lot of people support us, which helps us do what we do, and we're very appreciative of all those people. So just like to say thanks to them, and thanks for you guys for helping us out and having us on. So
Thanks to you for sponsoring our show.
Fucking A, boy.
Cool. Kurt, who do you got?
Well, really, I have nothing other than EM Precision Rifles for sponsoring my full build for King of 2 Miles and
full beard.
and full beard, absolutely. Well, full beard is courtesy of this guy.
Yeah. Wipeout makes great beard oil, hey? Anyway.
And Prairie Boys Excavating, the people that I work with, they're sponsoring me to get two King of 2 Miles. Yeah, you betcha.
There you go.
when you're going to shoot that this year?
Yes, sir. You betcha. It's in September sometime.
Good for you.
Yeah, you bet.
Well, don't say that until he shoots it.
Well, listen, I'm visualizing that it's going to be.
That's
fantastic.
right.
That's
Goddamn right.
Already happened.
He's
in your
learning.
mind.
He's learning.
Yeah.
You know what? I've been visualizing this for the last 4 months.
Since we left the range there, I think we've been thinking we could fucking do this.
Yeah.
More so you, but yes,
You got to win in your mind first, right?
that's right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm confident, man.
There you go, Mr. Christopher.
Well, first I'm going to thank Cary. I think it was a great conversation, and obviously
Absolutely.
thanks to Callsign 66 and all of our other sponsors, because they help us do what we're doing here to talk like idiots every Tuesday night.
Yes, sir.
And other than that, though, I've just got to thank Air for always being there when I need it.
Air.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all. I didn't have anything, so I had you say something.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I want to give a quick shout out to Ben at Extreme Range Outfitters.
Yeah, man.
They're right in the middle of a move right now, and they always have whatever I'm looking for whenever I show up. And it's check them out, extremerangeoutfitters.com. They don't sponsor the show yet, Ben.
Yes.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
They have everything except for 142 grain 6.5
Yeah.
Sierra Match Kings.
Or 139 grain OTM CNRs.
God, Ben, Ben.
Come on,
Damn it.
man. Get on that shit. Anyway.
How did the shout out turn into a you suck?
No. We did not. You said that. We didn't say shit.
Are you sure?
XRO.
They always have everything
except for
this, except for this.
Except for their entire operation. No, they're awesome. No, we're joking. That was sarcasm, internet. But we still have, so I got a sample taste of some of our new music coming our way from the Dirt Road Scholars.
Oh,
So we're working on that. John, if you're listening, pitter patter, son. You're on the clock now. So big shout out to those guys for the proprietary music for the show. And I guess I should prime their outro video, hey? And shout out to Cary also for putting up with my bullshit and bumping him for the last 2 weeks because of Tony Bernardo and the MPs. So sorry, dude.
Oh, well.
It's all good.
Look at that smile. I
That's
think
right.
he's okay.
he's been sitting there for the last 2 weeks just sipping on that whiskey.
He's just
His plan
planning
will come.
your. He's just planning your
Hydrating.
homicide. That's
hydrating.
Yeah, is it homicide if I decide that I need to die because of this? I don't know.
Be polite,
Yeah,
but
yes.
have a plan to kill everyone.
Exactly, like Batman, right? Anyway, cool guys. Well, thanks for the long show, and we will see you next week.
All right.
Later.
Ciao.
Later.